What is up, guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, a minor upset in the featherweight division. Mark Magsayo defeats Gary Russell Jr. by a majority decision to win the WBC featherweight title. Going into this fight, I was thinking that Gary Russell would win on points and outbox Mark Magsayo. I felt Magsayo was a live underdog, but I felt if he were to win this fight, it would have to be by knockout, but obviously that wasn't the case. It was an interesting fight. First sort of 3 rounds, Gary Russell was quite low output. He was trying to evade the power punches of Mark Magsayo. He was ducking low, slipping and sliding, and he would come back with some good hard counters, whereas Magsayo, he was the guy applying pressure, trying to let go of his hands. Russell in the first few rounds was doing a pretty good job of evading what Magsayo was doing, but Magsayo was still getting shots through to both body and head. So yeah, the first 3 rounds, it was developing into a pretty interesting fight in my opinion, but in round 4, Gary Russell hurt his right arm, and from that point onwards, Gary Russell really became a one-handed fighter, and primarily, he was looking for his straight left hand. Of course, Gary Russell is a southpaw, so yeah, after round 4, Gary couldn't use that jab or his right hook, and you know, he just couldn't keep up with Magsayo in terms of punch output, activity, and for a lot of rounds after round 4, or round 4 onwards, sorry, Gary Russell was just getting outworked. Don't get me wrong, Gary was showing good defense, he was making Magsayo miss quite a lot, but regardless of that, he was still getting significantly outlanded. Gary was still having success with that left hand, the straight left hand, and he was able to catch Magsayo with that as the fight went on, but he just couldn't, as I say, he couldn't match the work rate of Mark Magsayo, and honestly he could never really truly hurt Magsayo, which is what he needed to do, given that he had one hand. He really needed to get the respect of Mark Magsayo and make him second guess himself, but Gary Russell never did that in this fight. So yeah, given the fact that Gary was injured, and when he was landing he wasn't really getting the respect of Magsayo, Magsayo never really had anything to worry about throughout this fight. He wasn't concerned with what was coming back, and that let him just utilise his usual style of applying pressure and letting go of his punches. Magsayo was doing a pretty good job of using the 1-2 to apply pressure and get close to Gary, and when he was close to Gary, you know, he was letting go of those hooks to body and head. A lot of the headshots were missing, but you know, he was still significantly outlanding Gary Russell Jr. I've actually seen some people online say that Gary won this fight. I mean, I'm not sure what those people were watching. It was competitive, but I felt Magsayo clearly won this fight, and even the CompuBox kind of backs that up. I know CompuBox isn't perfect, but the CompuBox showed that Gary was significantly outlanded in this fight, and that's what I saw. So I'm not sure where people are coming from when they say Russell won this fight 7-5, or even the people who had it a draw. You know, I felt Magsayo won this fight quite decisively, quite frankly. But, you know, it is worth mentioning that the injury definitely played a big factor in this fight, no doubt about it. Looking at that fight, I would probably pick a fit Gary Russell to beat Mark Magsayo if they rematched. But, you know, this is boxing, things happen, right? And you've got to adjust, and Gary never really made that adjustment. So Mark Magsayo is the new WBC featherweight champion, and honestly, it's probably better for boxing that Gary Russell has lost his title. He's been super inactive, fighting once a year. He's not really had the fights that we've been asking for. So in all seriousness, when it comes to the featherweight division, I think it's a good thing that the title has changed hands. And honestly, I'd like to see Mark Magsayo fight Emmanuel Navarrete next. That's a great fight. I'd love to see Magsayo fight Mauricio Lara. I think that would be a great fight. Maybe Magsayo versus the winner of Warrington Martinez too. There's a lot of fights out there for Mark Magsayo, and given his style, I think Magsayo is going to be in a lot of interesting and fun fights, especially considering who the other champions are. So yeah, we've got a new featherweight champion. His name is Mark Magsayo from the Philippines. They have a new star, so we'll see where he goes in his career. Anyway, share your thoughts below. What did you make of this fight? What did you make of Gary Russell? And what did you make of Mark Magsayo? Also on the undercard, Subriel Matias avenged his only defeat by defeating Petros Ananyan by a 9th round stoppage. Subriel Matias, in my opinion, is becoming one of the most entertaining fighters in boxing, and it's good that he's avenged his only defeat. I see Matias now as a genuine top 10 contender at super lightweight, and he'll give anybody a hard night. He's robust, he throws a lot of punches, extremely aggressive, powerful. He's got a great style to watch, a really good style to watch. So yeah, congrats to Subriel Matias also. But yeah, share your thoughts below. What did you make of this card? Share your thoughts below. Peace.